GST 2.0 rolls out starting Monday, the 22nd of September, which also happens to be day one of Navratri celebrations across the country. On the eve of the occasion, Prime Minister Narendra Modi choosing to address the nation just a short while ago at 5 p.m. India time, where he took out a good 20 minutes to tell the nation how important, how pivotal, and how crucial these new GST rates are going to be. And he called it the Bachat Utsav, the GST Bachat Utsav, which translates to GST Festival of Savings, at a time when India's consumption levels are just going to go through the roof, with the festive season hitting peak time. People of India get the GST bonanza. Let's first listen into the highlights of Prime Minister Modi's address.
आज जाने अनजाने हमारी रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी में बहुत सी विदेशी चीजें जुड़ गई है, हमें पता तक नहीं है। हमारे जेब में कंघी विदेशी है कि देसी, हमें पता ही नहीं है। हमें इनसे भी मुक्ति पानी होगी। हम वो सामान खरीदें जो मेड इन इंडिया हो, जिसमें हमारे देश के नौजवानों की मेहनत लगी हो, हमारे देश के बेटे बेटियों का पसीना हो। हमें हर घर को स्वदेशी का प्रतीक बनाना है, हर दुकान को स्वदेशी से सजाना है। गर्व से कहो ये स्वदेशी है, गर्व से कहो मैं स्वदेशी खरीदता हूं, मैं स्वदेशी सामान की बिक्री भी करता हूं। ये हर भारतीय का मिजाज बनना चाहिए। जब ये होगा तो भारत तेजी से विकसित होगा। मेरा आज सभी राज्य सरकारों से भी आग्रह है, आत्मनिर्भर भारत के इस अभियान के साथ, स्वदेशी के इस अभियान के साथ अपने राज्यों में मैन्युफैक्चरिंग को गति दे, पूरी ऊर्जा से, पूरे उत्साह से जुड़े, निवेश के लिए माहौल बढ़ाएं। जब केंद्र और राज्य मिलकर आगे बढ़ेंगे तो आत्मनिर्भर भारत का सपना पूरा होगा।
दवाओं हो और मेरा जो हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस जो भरने का था, उसमें भी टैक्स लगभग ज़ीरो कर दिया है, तो उसके लिए बहुत ही खुशी का मैं महसूस कर रहा हूँ। और एक उन्होंने ऐलान किया कि मेड इन इंडिया जो हमारे देश में बने हुए, जैसे कि हम जो हमारे जो व्यापारी हूँ और मैं कार्मिक वर्ग से भी रिलेट करता हूँ, जो भी हमारे इधर बनेगा वही बिका तो देश का पैसा देश में ही रहेगा, और हमारे जैसे बिजनेस जो करते उनको भी एक मौका मिलेगा आगे बढ़ने के लिए। ये सब सोचकर एक बढ़िया संदेश उनके द्वारा आया है, तो इसलिए मैं बहुत ही खुशी का मैं एहसास कर रहा हूँ।
आज हमने तो नरेंद्र मोदी जी का स्पीच देकर बहुत खुशी हुई, क्योंकि उन्होंने एक मंत्र बोला है कि नागरिक देवो भव। एक जय जवान जय किसान जय विज्ञान करके नरेंद्र हमारा वाजपेयी जी ने बोला था, अभी एक नागरिक एक देवो भव करके हमारा मोदी जी ने बोला है। बहुत खुशी हुई, और इसमें से मैं बहुत उनसे आभारी हूँ कि उन्होंने लाइफ इंश्योरेंस और हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस में 18% का GST को जीरो कर दिया है। इससे मैं लगभग साल में तो 90,000 तक मैं प्रीमियम भर रहा था। मुझे तो इस साल से मुझे तो लगभग 14 से 15,000 तक का मुझे फ़ायदा हो रहा है हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस में। और मैं भी एक मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेक्टर में एक AGM की तरफ से मैं काम कर रहा हूँ, और हमारा जो कंपनी में जो मैन्युफैक्चर होता था ब्रेक ड्रम सब, वो एग्रीकल्चर ब्रेक ड्रम 18% टैक्स लगता था, और उसका तो अभी तो 5% लग रहा है। इससे तो हमारा क्या राइस हो जो भी हो, तो ट्रैक्टर में जो उनको तो हमारा रैत मित्र लोग उनको भी खरीदने का जो ये है कॉस्ट कम हो जाएगा, और क्या नागरिक के लिए वो राइस का और गेहूं का सभी का दाम कम होने का शुरू हो जाएगा।
When you think about one household, this may be an ordinary savings. But when you think about crores of houses who are going to save crores of money, this change is an extraordinary change. When it comes to small businesses who used to face hassles with the multiple tax slab, now their businesses are going to run very smoothly. MSMEs, their cost of the product will come down, which means their sales are going to increase, which will only mean that a lot of job opportunities will open up in our country.
That's the reaction coming in from the middle class to the mid-sized and small companies, Indian companies selling goods. It is a moment that is meant to spark celebration for both. Not only does it make goods cheaper, as on your screens, as you can see, the number of goods moving in from the 18% tax slab to just 5%, from 12% to 5%, and from 5% to 0 even. It is going to be a matter of big savings for some of the most important essentials that people buy on a daily basis, but that also means it is going to be a celebration for the small Indian companies which are selling goods, who can expect better demand, much better demand this festive season. We have Dr. Sharat Kohli, senior economist and founder KCC Group, now joining us. We have Shubhamoy Bhattacharjee, consulting editor of the Business Standard, also with us. Thank you, Shubhamoy, and Dr. Sharat Kohli for being with us. Dr. Sharat Kohli, let me begin by talking to you. Prime Minister Modi, the fact that he comes out on a Sunday like this and makes this 20-minute long address, on the eve of the rollout of GST 2.0, that just signals the levels of importance that this particular reform has, especially for a consumption-driven economy like India, especially at this time when India consumes the festive season time.
Absolutely. Good evening to you and News9 viewers. Well, it's a radical reform after 2017. I think this is the biggest tax reform. It's almost like announcement of budget. I remember when budgets used to be in the older times, when people used to watch what is cheap, what is more expensive. Now, of course, the budgets don't have that because it's been left to the GST Council. So obviously, because this is one reform which impacts all 145 crore people. Even newborn baby needs diapers and baby food and so forth. I think every citizen is touched by this reform, and 250,000 crores is the total benefit that people are going to get, this combined with income tax. So obviously it was huge, it was big, and he's trying to convey that this is a time we must go Swadeshi, we must become self-reliant, because we have faced pain of being dependent on three fronts. When COVID happened, Galwan happened, China gave us trouble on the borders, but we were dependent on imports, so we could not take any severe action vis-a-vis economy. Of course, now things are a bit better. We still have $100 billion of deficit with China. China had blocked our tunnel boring machines. China had blocked our fertilizers. China had blocked our rare earth magnets recently. And we were stuck. Of course, they have started now. Things have gone slightly better. Then this was on import front. Then let's talk of the export front. Look at what Donald Trump did. 50% tariffs, $50 billion approximate of our exports impacted. So many workers on the verge of losing their employment, just simply because of this embargo. It's almost an embargo. In other words, you're trying to convey, don't send your goods. 50% means don't send your goods. Second, export. Third, H1B we sought. Now our techies, the employment which people are looking for their American dreams, they are impacted. So the message is, obviously he didn't directly refer to that. Wherever there is dependence, there is pain. First, pain came from imports, pain came from exports, pain came from recruitment, employment overseas. I think it is good to be going global. There's no problem. You can export to the rest of the world. We are exporting $825 billion to the world as of now. Expand that as much as you can, but do not remain dependent. Do not land up in a situation where another country makes a policy change which is very, very vested, and we suffer the pain. I think that is where his thought is originating from. We should keep that in mind. GST reform is huge. I have done a back of the envelope calculation. This says every household on a minimum basis, on the household groceries itself. I'm not referring to air conditioners. I'm not referring to refrigerators, dishwashers, cars. I'm only referring to groceries. You're going to save minimum of 10%, which means if you earn a lakh of rupees, you spend about 60,000 rupees or 50,000 rupees on your groceries, your monthly savings are going to be 5,000 to 6,000 rupees. What do you do with this money? Either you go and buy more product, You improve your living standard, buy a more expensive brand, buy a better quality product, or you end up consuming something which you were not consuming earlier. Of course, the other option is save this money, start another SIP, put it in a savings account, get a fixed deposit made, make a mutual fund investment, and so on and so forth. So I think this is for the first time that a government induced saving is coming to you directly every time you spend. Normally, we see savings coming at the time of income tax. You are giving deductions, but that impacts a very limited strata of people. Only 3 crore people pay taxes, 8 to 9 crore people file returns. But this is something every time you go to a shop, every time you make your online shopping, every time you go and buy something for your household, you're going to save money. This is really, really big, because only when you collect these savings in a month, you would know how much impact this has made. This is going to boost consumption. This is going to boost demand. 7.8% is what we are growing already. But there are headwinds globally. Global geo-economic uncertainty is looming large on our heads. So somebody was asking me, what was the need of doing this art? Why was this done at this point of time? Well, GST is an evolutionary process. Every tax, for that matter, is an evolutionary process. It evolves gradually. Today, we are collecting 1,90,000 crore per month. This was the right time when the GST Council thought. In fact, I would like to put it in simpler terms. When all the finance ministers of all the states, including the ones ruled by opposition, they thought, yes, this is the right time. We must take a call now, and we must reduce the number of rates. Of course, Hawaii Jahaj and Hawaii Chappal cannot be charged at the same rates, but we can at least rationalize and bring them down out of the 4 main rates to 2 main rates. So I think a radical, a moment of celebration. He rightly called it GST Bachat Utsav. I think it calls for a celebration indeed. Over to you.
So Shubham Bhattacharya, consulting editor of the Business Standard, I'm going to begin by asking you, one is the levels of importance that's not, lost on anybody. A reform like this for GST is crucial, especially at the stage in which the Indian economy is, when it needs to maintain this momentum and probably do better for a consumption-driven economy like India at a time when there are so many global uncertainties facing it.
Absolutely. In fact, Krishna, the point is that because of the headwinds that are coming along, we are going to see a fair amount of disturbance in the economy. And this was therefore a very critical time when you've got a festival coming up, when people's mood is upbeat, to talk about what a good push the government has created through the GST reform. It's very important, very significant. The timing, therefore, is particularly apt. There's no doubt that this year, the global economy, India included, will suffer quite a bit from the gyration that have been created by Trump. And this is going to just play through. At the time when it's going to play through, if people realize that there is something that the government has done for me, mere liye, that gives people the ability to, feel like that there's a shock absorber there. And there's no doubt that that's going to come. I'm not going to compare it with COVID, but actually there is a huge unknown sort of a thing that faces us in terms of the impact. Sharad Kohli was talking about the impact of the Indian exports being to USA being disrupted, and that's true, and that's very strong. And especially, you must remember that the Prime Minister talked a lot about the MSME sector. Remember, the MSME sector is the powerhouse for Indian exports. We have the shrimp exporters, we have the leather exporters, we have the cotton textile exporters. Many of these come from the MSME sector. So the MSME sector is going to feel the pain. If that pain is going to come, then obviously it makes enormous sense for the government to try to soak that pain in by creating something which helps them a lot. Which is why the GST cut, and reinforcing the fact that the GST cuts have been done, it adds money to people's pocket, makes people feel that, fine, I mean, there's a problem there, but I know that there is going to be light at the end of the tunnel. The government has a plan. This is the context in which he was making the speech today. So GST, something done. The Atmanirbharta is basically looking at what is going to happen next. and therefore what are the things that needs to be rolled out. I expect that in the coming days, in the coming weeks, the Prime Minister, the government will be coming out with steps which will be looking at different sectors, what can be done for them. But the overall story becomes much more bolstered. People maintain that confidence only if a big story is there in the background. And therefore, the GST is about as big a story as you could make because of the extent of rate cuts that has been done. In fact, that is why it's very solid. The segment of, the extent of rate cut that has been done, which makes it possible to take steps, because there will be some winners, there will be some losers. How do you ensure that the overall country is with you? H1B is just one part of it, absolutely unpredictable. So that is where this speech comes in. It is very significant, therefore, in terms of the timing. Over to you, Krishna.
Right, significant about its timing, and also significant the fact that it's a clarion call from Prime Minister Modi to the middle class to be Swadeshi, to buy Indian. Let's listen to what the message that came in from Prime Minister Modi to the middle class.
देश में 25 करोड़ लोगों ने गरीबी को हराया है, गरीबी को परास्त किया है और गरीबी से बाहर निकल करके 25 करोड़ का एक बहुत बड़ा समूह नियो मिडिल क्लास के रूप में आज देश के अंदर बहुत बड़ी भूमिका अदा कर रहा है। इस नियो मिडिल क्लास की अपनी एस्पिरेशंस हैं, अपने सपने हैं। इस साल सरकार ने 12 लाख रुपए तक की इनकम को टैक्स फ्री करके एक उपहार दिया, और स्वाभाविक है जब 12 लाख रुपयों का इनकम टैक्स में राहत हो जाए तो मध्यम वर्ग के जीवन में तो कितना बड़ा बदलाव आता है, कितनी सरलता सुविधा हो जाती है। और अब गरीबों की भी बारी है, नियो मिडिल क्लास की बारी है। अब गरीब को, नियो मिडिल क्लास को एक तरह से डबल बोनांजा मिल रहा है। जीएसटी कम होने से अब देश के नागरिकों के लिए अपने सपने पूरे करना और आसान होगा। घर बनाना, टीवी, फ्रिज खरीदने की बात हो, स्कूटर, बाइक, कार खरीदना हो, ये सब पर अब कम खर्च करना होगा। आपके लिए घूमना फिरना भी सस्ता हो जाएगा, क्योंकि ज्यादातर होटल्स के कमरों पर भी जीएसटी कम कर दिया गया है। वैसे साथियों, मुझे इस बात की खुशी है कि दुकानदार भाई बहन भी जीएसटी रिफॉर्म को लेकर बहुत उत्साह में है। वो बहुत जीएसटी में हुई कटौती को ग्राहकों तक पहुंचाने में जुटे हुए हैं।
Dr. Sharat Kohli, in fact, there are so many little messages, nuggets as part of that speech. One is, of course, the upliftment from poverty of millions and millions of Indians, the new middle class who've just entered middle class thanks to the economic reforms that have been going on in the country for a while. This is sort of the time when the new middle class can cash in, can own up to being that middle class, because things become that much more affordable. Their purchasing power goes up that much. And in that sense, this is India sending out a message. Prime Minister Modi, on behalf of India, sending out a message to economies across the world, say, this is how we are doing it. This is how we're ensuring that our economic momentum stays strong, irrespective of what is happening across the world.
Absolutely. He's also trying to convey that, this is one of the biggest markets today. Our middle class size was about 40 crores. With this neo middle class of another 25 crores being added, our middle class size is now about 65 crores. This is twice the size of the American population. Where on earth will you give such a big middle class as a market? And these people have got aspirations. As Prime Minister said, somebody wants to start with a dishwasher, somebody wants to buy a bigger television, somebody wants to buy a bigger refrigerator. They may still be having a smaller one. Someone wants to buy upgrade from a bike to a car, and so on and so forth. So these are the people with aspirations. These are the people where number of earning members in the family are getting added as the children are growing. 65% of our population is less than 35 years of age. On an average, a household of the size of 5 members, we add up to almost 27 crore odd households if we take the population between 140 crores to 145 crores. So with those many households and the number of earning hands increasing, and we should not, a very important aspect, Krishna, because my economic research team, they found out an interesting data that the women participation in the economy, which used to be barely 23-25%, has gone up to 32%, which means a lot of women in not just in tier 1 cities, but tier 2, tier 3 cities, and even in the rural areas, they are getting connected to the main economic activity. So with the women population catching up, with the youth, propelled by the energy they have in them, I think this is the time when the country is on a stage where we can press the engine and we can press the accelerator. Hence these timings, because we can take it up. And there's a saying in English which says, make hay when the sun shines. This is if we are growing at 7.8%, somebody might question that you're already growing at 7.8%. Why take a measure to boost your economy? I would say, make hay when the sun shines. This is the right time when the economy is booming. If we give this consumer-based incentive to people, if we make the prices cheaper, if we make the goods within their reach, I think this will take the economy to the next level. In fact, it will make the economy gallop, not just move. It will drive. We should not forget 60% of our economy is comprised of consumption. And this is a direct hit on consumption, that you just make people go and consume. They should go and buy from tomorrow. I'm expecting, Krishna, starting tomorrow, right until the next quarter ends, in fact, right until March, people are waiting. I know a lot of families personally. This I want to mention it as an anecdote. A lot of families who had deferred their car purchases, who had deferred their air conditioner purchases, who had even, my driver told me today that I have held back my grocery purchase. He's going to buy it tomorrow. And he says, I've collected more money. I'm going to buy more because it's got cheaper. So practically every strata of society is going to get the benefit, Krishna.
Every strata of society is going to get the benefit. Here's wishing GST 2.0 all the very best. Dr. Sharat Kohli and Shubhamay Bhattacharjee, thank you so much for taking time out to be with us here.